Good evening, everybody. This is the VHS Vault. I'm VHS Jace, and here maybe is Jason Roy Gaston.
Well, if I'm the thing, I don't even know about it, and to me, that's even more terrifying.
Haha. Well, you've let it get out of the bag, and if the thumbnail didn't, you just did. We are in fact talking the thing tonight, Jace. But how did we decide on the thing? We didn't.
No, we did not.
We had put it out there that we would like people to kind of start recommending films that we should watch. And one of our wonderful viewers, Jay Gibbons 510, put this message on Facebook. He loved Old School Freddy. Who doesn't? Scary and evil. My favourite 80s is John Carpenter's The Thing. Would love to see you two cover that one. Well, his wish we will grant.
Yes.
And that's where we've come at. And, yeah. So, before we go any further, that's what this show's going to be about. It'll be more revealed later on in the show, but we want you guys to start sending us and putting in comments, sending us messages so we can decide what we should watch next. So
Yes,
comment
the
below.
wheel has been retired.
It has been retired because we don't need no wheel. We don't want no AI
We don't
deciding
need no
our
stinking
fate.
wheel.
No, we want real people to tell us what we do. And we have a great selection process. So put your suggestions in there, and later on, it'll be revealed which of the movies has been recommended we will be watching next week. But, like I said, we're talking the thing, Jace. John Carpenter's 1982. Well, a lot of people say it's his greatest film, and that is, as you can slowly start to see, The Thing.
The Thing. Oh, thing. The Thing.
The Thing.
Yes.
The Thing.
The
The
Thing,
Thing.
yeah.
There you go. So, look, The Thing. Yeah, what was your original exposure to this? How did you hear about it? When did you first see it?
Well, this is a common story here on the VHS Vault, but it started with Showtime whenever I was younger. We got Showtime, and I started watching all of these movies I'd never seen before. And I turned on this movie about a quarter of the way through, and I saw this horrific sight, this dog that looked like it was made out of ground beef, and it was screaming at the camera, and people were trying to burn it and shoot it, and it was just long and lingering. And I remember turning the channel back to Nickelodeon and being traumatized for a week because I didn't know what that was. That's my first memory of The Thing. As for whenever I actually first watched it, it was not recently, but it was late in my life. I believe I was in college, and somebody said something about how good The Thing was, and I said, "What's The Thing?" Oh, they showed me a still from it, and it was of the dog, and I was like, "No!" Childhood trauma unlocked again. But I sat down and watched it. It was part of a film criticism course, actually, and I watched The Thing, and I realized this is one of the greatest, not only horror movies of all time, it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
It is, and I should put it up because we are talking The Thing, so there it is there. Yeah, my exposure actually was even earlier than seeing any snippet of it, Jason. My exposure was seeing printed ads in the newspaper. We used to have newspapers. It was the thing made out of paper. They had ink on it.
Sounds archaic.
Yeah, I know. But they had these little, like, in the corner promoting what was coming out at the cinemas that way. And it had very much the outline of our thumbnail, which is that figure there, that obviously part of one of the great scenes in this movie. And that's how, like, it traumatized me then. And like you, I didn't get to see it until 1920 because of that initial trauma of the idea of it.
No, I thought you said the year 1920.
No, 19
How
or 20.
old are you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it is one of those films, isn't it? So when I did get to see it, though, you're right. I was stunned. And it's not because of the special effects why this movie works for me. It is absolute. The special effects in this film are the delicious topping on an already sumptuous base.
Yes.
And the sumptuous base, Jason, comes down to the cast in this film. Just a group of exceptional character actors in this movie, which really make it work, And Kurt Russell being the core of that. But, what's his name? Is it Richard Richard Dawson. There's a actor called Richard. He played the dog keeper in it.
Richard Masur.
Richard Masur, who's a great actor. You've got, of course, the great Wilford Brimley in a just playing exceptional role.
This will give us diabetes.
The Doctor, he ended up being in L.A. Law, I remember, who the Doctor is in this film. But you've got, what's the name, Carter in this as well. T.K. Carter? Is it T.K. Carter?
I believe so, yes. T.K. Carter, who played Knowles.
And of course. And the great Keith David.
The
exceptionally wonderful.
Keith David.
Yeah, Keith David.
1,000 years ago, superstition and the sword ruled.
Yeah. So, you know, the origin of how this got made, you know, obviously there was a film in 1951 called The Thing.
The Thing from Another World.
The Thing from Another World, which was, well, kind of like how Spielberg directed Poltergeist. It was actually kind of, you know, even though they say it's Tobe Hooper, it was really Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, it is.
Howard Hawks basically directed this film. And Howard Hawks is one of the great filmmakers of the mid-20th century. And he had his teeth all over it. But they showed an alien in that, but the concept was still kind of the same. John Carpenter went back to the original short story, took elements of that, and now did his version. And that's kind of a bit of a backstory on that one. So
I have seen both versions, and this one's better.
And what a way for this film to start, really, because it starts at such a kind of, you're in the middle of something with that helicopter chasing down a dog.
No, a husky, which as coming from a house that had a husky growing up, I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying I get it.
Okay. What bothers now? This is something I'm watching it, right? And my son and my wife and they've already seen the prequel to this film made in 2011, which I have not. I stood away from it. I just said I'm not watching it. The whole beginning ended up becoming the subject for that prequel film. And when they were watching it again, it said it shifted context for them for what that opening scene was. What about you? Have you seen the prequel?
I have seen the prequel. And I know the prequel is controversial because, in case you don't know, the people who made the movie made these amazing practical effects, just like they did in the 1982 version. The studio saw it and basically said, oh, no, wait, everyone loves CGI now. Let's just put CGI over these practical effects. And they look like dog butt. I really don't think the 2011 thing was that bad. It's certainly nowhere near as good as this one is. But I do think it gives you a little bit of extra added context. Now, was the movie necessary? No. But it's not horrible. I don't think it really detracts from this movie. As a matter of fact, I kind of suggested, we ought to do the 2011 movie at one point, just for kicks and giggles. But yeah, I mean, if it had never existed, it would have been fine. It exists now. It's fine.
Yeah. But if you hadn't seen that one, it's a very simple idea, just having this chopper chase down a dog. A dog lands at this other camp in the Antarctica, basically, where just below here in Australia. That's where they're hanging out. So I love the isolation straight away because I think the film already gives you that sense that they're in the most unhospitable environment. And they get this dog that runs up, and we start to get introduced to, again, a stellar cast in this film.
And they were all unknowns, too, at this point.
None of them were breakout stars. We'd seen them in everything, but none of them.
I do believe this was Keith David's first major role, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
I mean, what a way to start.
What a way to start, because he becomes extremely important in this movie as we go along. But yeah, look, it's a wonderful setup. You really get a sense of the isolation that they're dealing with. And I especially loved, I don't know if I have that clip here, but I especially love how they introduced Kurt Russell's character.
Oh, playing chess, yeah.
Playing chess and losing and deciding a computer that's probably worth tens of thousands of dollars back then. And they can't get it. He just pours his whiskey straight into it. But it's great because it tells you that this character, he really doesn't give a you-know-what.
Yeah, he's a little psychologically unbalanced as well. Which,
as you would be, right?
Who wouldn't be? Yeah, I mean, Antarctica is No place to go if you have got any kind of phobias at all.
Yeah. So I never get a sense that we have a really clear idea what they're researching, what their main function at that camp really is. And I don't think it really matters.
No,
We
it
just
would have
know
been
that these
unnecessary exposition.
Exactly. So obviously with that scene where you see the Norwegian guy trying to execute the dog and them not understand, and then that guy, breaking through the window and popping one in his eye, it it leads to a scenario where they're going to go back and check things out, right? They're going to go back and go,
Incidentally, if you happen to speak Norwegian, they give away the entire plot at the very beginning of the movie.
excellent.
They actually say, get away from that. That's not a dog. It's some kind of thing. Get away from it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so great. But they have no choice, do they? They've got to, because otherwise you're going to have a whole country of Norwegian going, he just asked, just say you should eat cheese out of a toilet. You've got to get it right. So,
I wonder how that went down in Norway, though. Just watching the movie and everybody's, oh, there's a thing from another planet. Well, let's go.
Yeah, we're done. So let's out. We're getting out.
Maybe they I don't know, dubbed it in Finnish or something.
But that little incident there leads to an investigation. They've got to find out what the beep has been going on. That these guys, this helicopter's come over trying to kill a dog and acting like a madman. So they actually go, and Kurt Russell, who's the pilot, should we say, the helicopter pilot, with the grooviest hat ever. Let's just shout out to Kurt Russell's hat.
I love the hat, yeah.
The hat works really well. And he takes one of the guys with him, and they go check out the base, basically. They go check out what's been happening. And, man, it's a creepy scene just on its own. Like, there's nothing really happening.
It's that scene from that Star Trek episode where everybody's frozen at the very beginning. And then they bring home an alien contamination that begins to infect everybody. And, oh, my God, this is a remake of The Naked Time.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, like, this is what they find there, this really odd hunk of ice.
I want a bathtub like that.
Yeah.
That would be so comfortable.
I'm sure there's somebody out there who's got lots of money who's done that. That's our bath.
I'm sure. Yeah. Probably back with the ice. You got to have an ice bath.
But it starts to what I love about this film the most, and I still feel I can roll with it after the dozens times I've seen it, is the fact that we're finding out things in real time as they're finding them out. So we're getting to unpeel this onion layer by layer as they do. And it's just handled so well. I think this is Carpenter's best directing he's ever done.
Well, it's not just that, but that not only are we learning a little bit at a time, but he's also dropping hints that you pick up on the second or third time that you watch it. Where the dog goes, the shadow that looks at the dog, just the strange behaviors that you didn't notice before. This movie has so many different theories about it, not just about the endings, not just about the where did the monster come from, but just even the events that happen in the movie. You can interpret in so many different ways, and it's spectacular. I agree. This is Carpenter's best work.
Now, I don't know if you know the story about the special effects guy that got to do this, who's literally half our age when he makes it. So I think he's like 21, this kid, and he gets the job of being the lead special effects guy in this movie.
But that was fun.
Look what he did. Look what he created. Some of the greatest practical effects that have ever been put on film, Jason.
They still hold up. They look better than most of the stuff you see today.
Absolutely, they still hold up. And they still hold up in 4K definition.
Yes,
that's
they
how
do.
I watched it. And I don't know, it's like the texture, the slime that they use, the way they lit it. And I suppose a big shout out has to go to Dean Cundy, who was Carpenter's DP, director of photography, who just lit it in such a way that it looked realistic as well. So everybody's on fire in this film, figuratively and literally at times too, as we get through the film.
I got to watch this with my godson, who's staying with me right now, and he had never seen The Thing. And he actually said at one point, he's 33.
Yep.
And he said at one point, he's like, "Yeah, I need to watch The Thing. I've never seen it." I was like, "Oh, well, I'm doing a podcast where we're actually covering the movie this week. Let's watch it." Speaking of things, get out of here. He watched it, and at one point he said, "This movie's actually very beautiful." And I asked him, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, "It's so colorful, and it's colorful in ways you don't expect. There are these wonderful deep blues while they're outside, the orange of the fire, just lighting the characters from the back. And the more that I look, the more I realize he's absolutely right. This movie is colorful, but it's not colorful in a distracting way. It's just, this is before digital color grading, where, they would have made everything grayer, or they would have made everything bluer. I just like these natural colors just shown through in this process, because to me it does make The Thing an oddly beautiful movie.
It does. It is a and again, that goes down to Dee Cundy, who's the director of photography, who's made all that happen. Now there are some very horrific scenes in this, and you kind of mentioned one before. The one with the dog becomes the most disturbing. I'm not sure. I do believe I have got a clip of it right here. Is this the one here? Have I got the? Oh. Yeah, and as you can see,
this is the scene that traumatized me. Is that look from that dog right there?
Yeah, I mean, look at that. That is absolutely.
I had nightmares about that damn thing growing up.
Yeah, but it's not the only one too. I mean, you've got this as well. Wilford Brimley, by the way, exceptional in that scene. But look at that as a concept idea. What are you thinking if you're in that scenario looking at that? You're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, I also say I made lots of jokes watching this every time Wilford Brimley showed up. Just, what do you think this is? Diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah.
Did you know
whenever he goes crazy, he's like, "Why is no one eating Quaker Oats?" I miss Wilford Brimley.
In that, when he's like, it's at one point where he's got a pencil with a rubber on the end of it, and he's like describing and pointing out in close-up shot, and he touches it for a sec. Then he stands up, walks around the table, and starts to tap the pencil on his bottom lip.
I did notice that.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? What the hell's going on there? Which I don't know if that was an intentional gag or not, but I did appreciate it.
It sounds like to me it's something Wilford Brimley did as an ad lib, and they kept it in there.
Yeah.
Because he was Wilford Brimley was a cowboy. All right. He was used to birthing calves on the ranch. He was used to, butchering his own meat and everything. And so whenever they put him in the situation where he had to do an autopsy on this alien, and they were using actual organs as props, all the other actors were like, "Ooh, no." Wilford Brimley just put his hands in there and just went for it, because the man was very unflappable. And so I totally see that as something he did just to mess with everybody. I think that must have been a fun set.
Yeah, it must have been, because now apparently it was shot in British Columbia.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So
it was shot. The outside shots were shot in British Columbia, but the interior shots were filmed in Los Angeles on a soundstage where the temperature was lowered to 40 degrees below zero, so they could get the breath.
I was wondering how they did that. I know they had to drive like an hour and a half each day just to arrive on set for that external location. But well worth it, because there is no doubt that looks exactly like any footage we've ever seen from
It does. It looks amazing.
It really does. It really does. And you know what? Some of the visual effects they do have in this film, and they're not many, and what I'm referring to as matte paintings, is still wonderful. I mean, there's a scene where they go to cover, there you go, the UFO.
The USS Enterprise. Fantastic. Looks like Archer's Enterprise.
The Millennium Falcon, I was thinking at one point. There's something in there. But,
Chewie's going to be pissed when they open up the door.
He is. But, look, it's so tension-filled at this point, and a lot of the juiciness doesn't come from things contorting and turning into disgusting beings. It's in the play. It's the back and forward. It's the building of the paranoia internally between the characters. That's where the meat is in this film. And it's just so good, Jason. I mean, there's the scene where he touches.
Yes.
He's going to touch his lip in a minute. But I was looking for another group scene. Here we go. Yeah, like all these guys are just, by the time we get to this scene, like we're in it. We are locked in. You don't know what this guy's going to do because everyone's unpredictable because of the extreme scenario they are in.
Well, the thing from Another World was released about the time that the Red Scare was going around. Your neighbors might be a communist. You might be a communist. I might be a communist. And so that played into that. In 1982, we were just at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. Everybody might have this horrible disease that we know nothing about and is basically a death sentence. And so I really think that had to have been a part of what went into this movie. The mythology about it. Anybody could be infected. You could be infected. I could be infected. And you won't know until it's too late. Yeah,
that's a great point. And I'd be willing to put money on that. I'd be willing to put money on that's the case. So, yeah. So, like, the other thing about the paranoia that kind of gets you, it's valid paranoia too, because you can sympathise by everyone, like what's going on. Because as soon as the unveiling of the fact that they imitate himself in a very extended, state-of-the-art computer animation scene that we get, which
I know,
drags on forever, but
done on the Atari 2600, I might add.
Clearly, but Wilford Brimley holds it all together with this look, that that he has figured out that this is apocalyptic scenario. And he's probably realised that at that point, he's realised none of us are making it out of here.
I agree.
And it's really cool,
He makes the conscious decision that he's going to murder everybody by destroying the radio.
Well, yeah. I mean, but is he wrong for doing that? It's
absolutely,
extreme.
He's not. He's not.
He's trying to protect the greater good.
He's the smartest man in the movie, I would argue. I think the only thing that kept him from being smarter is that he overreacted, I think.
Yeah.
I think that if he'd been a little bit more methodical about it, maybe he would have pulled it off, because really all he would have had to have done was destroy their heaters.
That's true. But yeah, the emotion around that, coming to that realization that you're here on the cusp. You're in the Wuhan clinic.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. You're seeing it go down in real time, and you've got an opportunity to stop it. You're right. He is the hero here. They are all heroes, but man, some of these deaths are great. Like, I especially love the hands. Check out the hands.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a callback. His scream is a callback to the Body Snatchers, or kind of like a homage to that,
Oh, I totally agree. I read something that somebody had written saying that they had a theory that if you are the thing, you don't know you're the thing. Because it would have to be a complete perfect copy. And how could you be a perfect copy if you knew that you were a copy? So you have these people... you have these people wandering around thinking that they are fine, and then next thing you know, their arm turns into this horrible thing. So whenever he looks at the camera and he screams, that's a scream of terror, because he finally knows, oh my God, I'm the thing. It's me. That must be a horrible, horrible feeling.
I think you've touched on a really great point there, because the horror doesn't become because there's a monster. The horror is because we are seeing it in the middle of a transformation. If we never saw those transformations, there's nothing horrific about it. It's just, Jono's acting a little bit odd. But, and that's where the grossness comes part, is the transformation, them catching it at some stage throughout it, which is really great. We mentioned it before, but we got to show a bit of Wilford Brimley swinging an axe, right? Look at him go. Look at him go.
He's loving my oats. You should have watched Cocoon.
Except the only reason I wanted him to die is because he killed the dogs.
Yeah.
He had to.
You don't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You don't hurt dogs.
You don't hurt the doggos. You don't hurt the doggos. Okay, let's get into my favourite scene, and it is a scene of special effects.
I disagree. Hurt all the dogs.
One of the great special effects moments in there is trying to save a colleague. And I'm just going to show it. And obviously, guys, if you're a bit, squirmish, you're watching the wrong show tonight. So, but this scene here, which is
Om nom nom.
just
Oh my god.
yum nom nom, like
That scared the hell out
yeah.
of me.
How
whenever I
bad is
saw
that?
this movie.
And then we get it trapped up. Well, then we get this, but then we get moving into this here, which was yes,
I love
like
it.
there's the cover of the VHS. There it is. And it looks so great. What kind of inventive madman comes up with that design? You know what I mean?
Very, very messed up
Oh
individual
my!
who needs to be locked up.
Yeah. And given anything he ever wants, though, because he's a genius. Look at that. That's just absolutely incredible, Jason. The way they do it. And again, you wouldn't have known. The reason it's splitting apart is out of survival, right?
No, it's trying to get away.
It's trying to
just trying to survive.
One of probably my second favorite scene in this movie has to be the blood testing scene later on, right? Talk about tension.
Oh, it's great.
And it's just such a simple idea that makes for a great visual as well. Like, they must have been putting their hands together when they come up with that idea. We'll heat up a pin, add it to the blood, we get the sizzle, we get to see the blood react. Just a genius little idea that adds so much to the plot and the tension to this film. Just I don't know if John Carpenter wrote this solely and wholly, and you think I would know after watching it dozens of times, but for a B movie, which this is basically supposed to be, it is derived from being a B monster movie that is A class. Like, it's one of those things. It transcends the genre that it's designed to fit in, which is, just absolutely electric. Kurt Russell. And, this is Kurt Russell, really. Oh, well, there's your scene. There's one of the scenes
great scene.
This is a great scene as well. There's Kurt Russell quickly. Yeah, this is horrible,
This
isn't
scene
it?
actually has one of the few,
Look at that.
I think, bad special effects in it.
That bit there with the eye bubbles?
No, that doesn't bother me. It's whenever the head, turns into the jaws and bites windows. It is so obviously a dummy that it's not even debatable because the legs have no heft to them. They're just swinging up and down like that. And the fact that Windows is screaming the entire time just makes it ridiculous. So it's the one bad special effect in this movie.
Yeah. Now,
I fully overlook it, though. It's fine.
Yes, we've got so much deliciousness everywhere else. I was saying to say about Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell really must have been loving this period in his career because he went from that Disney young actor, got to do Elvis on TV, and then met up with John Carpenter, and then now had made Escape from New York, and now this, one after the other.
Oh, and he
had
Big Trouble in Little China just around the corner too. So.
Yeah, in '86. So, it's great because it helped Kurt Russell be known as, it could be a dramatic actor, it could be in horror films, it could be in post-apocalyptic action films, it could be in comedies, which he was known for. What was he, the world's smartest kid or the computer kid or something like that?
The kid with a computer brain or something
Yeah, something like that.
The computer wore tennis shoes.
The computer that wore tennis shoes.
Terrible movie.
When you were a kid, you watched them on a Sunday. Well, they used to air Disney stuff on a Sunday night here when I was a kid.
Supposedly, Walt Disney's final words were Kurt Russell, and nobody knows why.
Must have been. So, no, and really good. And Kurt Russell really is not getting a lot to do in regards of dialogue, but he's able to really flesh out his character with very little. So, kudos to that man there. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say about one of the great films? You've just got some incredible... Oh, what's this scene here?
This is around the ending.
Yeah, this is starting around the end. I mean, you could start to get critical in some of these special effects, but at this point...
I still think they look great.
They look pretty great. And you're seeing, different... Yeah, look at that. Oh, it must be so much fun to be on that set.
I love the fact that, to me at least, the thing's not evil. It just wants to live. That's it. It just wants to live. It wants to continue. It's not good. It's not bad. It doesn't really care about anybody on the base. They're not the bad guys. They're just these weird little life forms that keep trying to burn and hurt it. It's just trying to live. That's it. It's It's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Mm,
They want to live. The humans want to live, and only one can make it, or
Now,
none.
that thing had been there for several hundred thousands of dollars, hundred thousands of years, as it was tested. Like so, which was would mean it had been sitting there.
Hmm.
In the prequel, they must show the scene of them cutting out that bath, right?
Yes, they
Surely.
do, and it's
Yeah.
there's some regrettable choices made in the sequel. Let me just
Yeah.
put it that
Okay.
way.
Okay. But here it's electrifying, and this is the film that if you hadn't figured it out previous to John Carpenter's films, John doesn't believe in happy endings. And
No,
this is
he
why
does
these
not.
films work. And because how could you credibly make a film and have someone escape? Like, you can't have anyone escape this scenario, can you?
No.
You can't, because then you're basically insinuating it's got out. Which, let's be fair, wouldn't be past John Carpenter to do that, because that's still an apocalyptic ending, as he likes to do his apocalyptic endings. But it certainly is apocalyptic for these characters who save the world by, And David Keith, MVP in this film, is excellent, isn't he? And gets
He
to,
is. He is.
Gets,
I don't know. Have you ever heard the different theories about the ending of this movie?
I have, but please, to share.
So there are three possible scenarios. The first scenario is that Keith David and Kurt Russell are both human, but they can't risk. They don't trust each other, and so they can't risk being rescued. Basically, so they're going to choose to freeze to death outside.
That's what I think.
The second scenario is that both of them are the Thing, and both of them know it. And so the whole thing about let's just sit here and wait a while and see what happens, they're planning on freezing until somebody can find them again. The second one is my favorite. It's that you saw the scene where Kurt Russell fights the Thing down in the basement or wherever it was, and he throws the Molotov's cocktails at it and blows it up. And then he meets Keith David up top, and he hands Keith David a bottle, and Keith David takes a drink. It was a Molotov cocktail. It was kerosene. And so Keith David drinks it, and at that moment, Kurt Russell knows he's the Thing.
Ooh.
And so Kurt Russell knows he's the Thing, but at that point, the Thing doesn't know that Kurt Russell knows that he's the Thing, because he still thinks that he's Keith David.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And there's also,
like
if you look, Keith David's Keith David's breath doesn't fog, but Kurt Russell's does. So maybe a clue, maybe it was just a production mistake. But I love the fact that so many theories about the ending of this movie has come out, and each one of them, if you watch the movie, recontextualizes everything that's said. Yeah. Every little smile, every little line means something completely different.
Fantastic. I love that kind of thing that kind of comes through. But I've always accepted it as they know they can't make it out, so they're killing themselves to save humanity. But damn, I like that third one. The third one, that really works for me. Look, it's one of those films that stands, very tall in the horror genre. It's rarely been topped, if at all. I'm thankful to know that they haven't made a sequel to it, or hopefully there never will be made a sequel to it, because they go, you know what? Let's do a commentary on global warming, where they're melted and they've been able to escape, and now the Thing is let loose on the world. Because there's some coked up executive in Hollywood who probably thinks that's a good idea. You leave this masterpiece where it belongs, as is. It should never have been a prequel made. And the reason is just because this is how you make you kind of exceed the genre that you're in, like I kind of mentioned before. These films come along and they become more than what they were intended to be, and that's why they stand to become classics. I don't know if you've got any box office on this, but I do believe it was not a profitable film on release.
It was not a profitable film. As a matter of fact, not only was it not profitable, it was butchered by the critics. The critics hated it. I don't have any of those right now.
No.
But well, hold on, let's see.
Hmm.
I've got it keeps saying, you need IMDb Pro for this. I do have IMDb Pro.
Yeah. Oh, you do have it. I'm
I
too
do.
cheap.
I dropped some coin for it.
Oh, good on you.
But yeah, it was
1982.
not a. Well, it was also released almost at the same time as another movie that kind of did well too. You may have heard of it, called E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Oh, yeah.
Basically had, well, we can go watch this wonderful, heartwarming movie about this little alien child that gets lost on Earth and befriends a little boy and then wants to go home. Or we could watch this horrible dystopian gore fest about an alien that digests people and takes on their bodies. Okay, it was filmed on a budget of $15 million, which was a huge budget, and it ended up making $20 million. So whenever you take in, the advertising and everything into account, probably ended up losing money.
Yeah. But what a year it came out. Let's recognize the fact it came out in one of the greatest years of Hollywood cinema, and that's 1982. Have you ever looked into that, Jace? The films that came out
It was
in 1982?
incredible. You had so many great movies coming out at the same time.
It was. So, you are competing against some of the great films of that decade. Even people forget there are even films that came out that you would forget they were kind of out of that time, I mean, who thinks of King of Comedy? Thinks of that came out. And that came out in 1982. So did Sophie's Choice. We also had Blade Runner. We had Rocky 3. We had, the sequel to Airplane. We had just Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
So here we go. Movies that came out in 1982. You got Friday the 13th Part 3, Poltergeist, Creep Show. You had The Thing, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Tron, The Dark Crystal, Swamp Thing, which we have covered on this show before.
Please check that out.
The Last Unicorn, Conan the Barbarian, an Amityville movie, Blade Runner. This is all in the same year. Beastmaster, which is a wonderful movie.
It is a wonderful movie.
Yeah, this 1982 was just
a crackerjack
incredible.
Year.
Incredible
year. And this is a time too, Jace, where they didn't drop films for 3 weeks and then pull them off the cinema screens.
No,
these films played for months. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
E.T. was almost a year.
Yeah.
I remember being at the theaters, you could go and see it. So it's an incredible time. So, yeah, I don't know if that's the reason why it was misunderstood. I know this is a common saying, but it feels like it's appropriate for this. It was ahead of its time.
It was.
I don't think people were quite ready for what John was, treating out there. But John's done that a few times now with films. Has done things that are ahead of its time. Big Trouble in Little China is another great example of that, where people didn't get it at the moment.
I love that movie so much.
Oh, yeah, and the same with They Live. Complete other film, and it's become a massive cult film. But The Thing definitely stands up, probably his best.
I have to read this. This movie is a great barf bag movie. That was Roger Ebert.
Yep.
Let's see. It's foolish.
Interesting.
It's foolish, depressing, where the actors are merely used as props to be hacked, slashed, disemboweled, and decapitated, finally to be eaten and regurgitated. It's too phony to be disgusting. It qualifies only as instant junk. The New York Times, Vincent Canby.
Well, Vincent, you're wrong, buddy.
Starlog magazine.
Yeah, okay.
The Thing smells, and it smells really bad. It has no pace, sloppy continuity, zero humor, bland characters, on top of being totally devoid of either the warmth of humanity.
You don't even get love from Starlog?
I know.
What is going on
people
there?
Who were saying Star Trek V: The Final Frontier was an ambitious movie. Come on.
Yeah, they completely, you could tell that they, it's ahead of its time. They weren't ready for it. Those same critics would come back years later and applaud it and laud it and put it in its top 10 lists. So it's nuts, isn't it? Opinions.
It really is. It's almost like you get this blood in the water mentality. Yeah. Oh, Ebert didn't like it. I have to hate it too.
But luckily today, in this modern day, we don't do that.
No. We
never happens on the internet.
It is that never ever ever happened.
Well, that was a delight to watch that again.
It was.
I've got to
Always
thank
a delight.
J.D. Gibbons again. Thank you very much for recommending an excellent film. It was wonderful to be able to have an excuse to go back and watch it again. I think we thoroughly enjoyed it very, very much. So thank you again, and we hope you've enjoyed this review so far. But Jason, like I said earlier in this show, we need to decide, what should we watch next? And we want you to comment below and add your suggestions. But
They all don't have to be classics, by the way. They can be stinky if you want.
we've had a
'Cause the
couple of
stinky ones
really
are
great.
fun.
Yeah, the real kind of B, C. Go as the lower on the alphabet grade film, we're happy to go with. I'll go with.
My favorite episode of the VHS Vault is Ator the Invincible. That is still my favorite. And that movie is butt, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Okay, now we've decided to move away. Like I said, we've come up with a new system. Well, I haven't actually, to be honest with you guys. This is all Jason's idea.
Oh, it was not
Jason,
my idea. It was our boss's idea.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, whoever that is. Oh, that's right. 3 of them, aren't there?
Yeah.
I can hear them now complaining about the show in the background. All right. Okay. Well, the only thing I can do, Jace,
was right.
the only thing I can do, Jace, is to show the audience how we're going to select what we're watching next week. Here we go.
Welcome to our great experiment, the Battle Tower, where the decision of what we will watch next week will be made by the bosses. Battle Cat, Murder Bean, and Demona. My feline friends tell me what to do all the time, and this will be no different. On the bottom of these plates is a movie, and if the cats eat out of that plate first, that is the movie we watch. We will now begin the great experiment. It must be consumed to count. And we have a consume. And our winner this week is War Games, suggested by Aaron Sugar. I live to serve you, feline overlords.
Yay! Well, Aaron Sugar, there you go. Your wish has been granted. We're doing the year later, 1983, Matthew Broderick starrer War Games.
Yes.
Jason, I don't think I've seen it since 83.
I haven't seen it in a very long time. I just remember the computer's name was Whopper, and that's as far as I remember.
I think we also need to appreciate that you did have, out of the 2 movies you could have displayed, one is Dark Crystal, and the other one being The Wiz was a bit of a surprise.
Oh, yes.
But I love musicals, and I love The Wiz.
I'm glad you didn't notice, but the stack of DVDs that I put in the Battle Tower, I thought I grabbed an American Werewolf in London, and I grabbed an American Werewolf in Paris by mistake.
Well, you know what? You shouldn't tempt fate, because if somebody chooses that and we've got to watch that, I am going to be pissed.
I have a soft spot for an American Werewolf in Paris, so you know what? Do it. Anyway, if you want to add a movie to the Feline Decides, which is our brand new way of choosing which movie to do, leave a comment below. Let us know what you want us to see, and please, like I said, they all don't have to be classics. If you want to see us suffer, please do. I have a very high threshold for pain.
The viewers win-win. If they hate us, they can recommend us something they hate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if they like us, they could still recommend something they hate. You know,
oh, sure.
Everybody wins from this scenario. So that's it, guys. We are done watching The Thing. That has been The Thing. That has been VHS Vault. Absolutely wonderful to have the show back. It was a great movie to review. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks with War Games, right, Jace?
Well, are we doing War Games, or are we going to do Nightmare on Elm Street 4?
Oh, that's something we hadn't decided. We may have to talk to the bosses on that one, guys. So it could be the Dream Master.
I'm getting the finger right now.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but we'll figure it out, guys. But we'll be back in 2 weeks, no matter what, with a brand new episode of the VHS Vault. We'll see you then, guys.